Okay, welcome to our Premier League preview here at the Etihad Stadium, Manchester City. Remember, of course, Betsafe are the official betting partner of Man City. So if you want the best tips and the best offers, then that's where you need to keep it. And we have, of course, Paul Dickov, Harry Redknapp with me today at the Etihad Stadium to look back on the Premier League. We'll have a look back at what happened last season, of course. We'll have a little look forward to what might happen next season. Leicester City, champions of England.
Yeah.
How, Harry? How?
I don't know how, but it happened, and it was a miracle. I mean, but it was an incredible season. It was a great season, I think, for the Premier League. Great for English football. And I think football all over the world looked at it and thought, look, this team that were favourites to get relegated at the start of the year end up as champions, and it gives everybody hope going into every season now that maybe we can do a Leicester. It's been fantastic.
I didn't remember any negativity around the whole thing. I think they had, apart from Spurs, Arsenal, United, Chelsea, they had the will of the whole world behind them, didn't they?
No, they did, and they were everybody's favourite second team. They all wanted them to win. But they didn't just win it or nick it, they won it by 10 points, which is phenomenal, really. You know, the last time I think any team done that was United a few years ago when Sir Alex was there. But they were just a joy to watch.
I've written down a couple of names: Vardy, Drinkwater, Mahrez, Kante. We've mentioned Ranieri. Mahrez had a decent season, to be fair, the previous season, so did Jamie Vardy, but I didn't think for 1 minute they'd be this good.
No, they didn't, and you're talking about the names there, but they got promoted 2 seasons ago from the Championship. Kasper Schmeichel, Wes Morgan, talking about Jamie Vardy, Danny Drinkwater, all played in the Championship 2 years ago, and now they're Premier League champions going into Europe now. You know, the consistency, I think they were lucky with injuries as well. You know, they managed to keep their best players fit for a lot of the time.
But you've ended up, Paul, with 2 players, you know, one being Footballer of the Year, Mahrez, you know, Vardy as well. It was a toss-up between those 2.
And Drinkwater's got
Drinkwater
to
was
not getting
unlucky not the year.
Schmeichel
had an incredible season as well. Looks a fantastic goalkeeper.
Robert Huth as well.
Huth.
You know, he couldn't get in the Stokes team.
Huth and Morgan were a great partnership, weren't they? I think that was a great signing when they brought Huth in. Nigel Pearson brought him in. Ranieri came in. I don't think he tinkered too much with anything, did he? Let him, it carried on. The season before, the last 9 games, they were the best team in the league. They had a fantastic finish to stay in the Premier League. Nigel Pearson went and Ranieri came in, and it was more or less same again, lads. Carry on from where you ended last season, and that's what they did.
But the thing with being champions, Harry, is, and you know, we all know, it's not the flash in the pan, it's not a cup run. I think you said before we came on air, 10 points.
Yeah.
That's not a fluke.
No, it's not. And you know, people are saying it's because the Premier League was a poor league last year and other teams failed a little bit. But I think that's taken a lot away from Leicester. What they've done week in, week out was phenomenal. You know, everybody was just waiting them slipping up. It was October time, they weren't going to keep it going. Then the Christmas period where it's tough, Easter where people slip up, and they just kept going and going and going. You know,
and they had players that were cast off from other clubs in lots of areas of the team, didn't they? Who came in and did incredible jobs, you know. So
there's a lot of very clever people with Betsafe. Remember, the official betting partner of Manchester City, had a bet in January for Leicester to win the league.
I'm sure there must have been someone who did that. You, my God, that was a bold bet.
I tell you, genuinely, do you remember when they got beat by Arsenal late on? Remember they conceded the goal late on?
They played fantastic that day.
And then they came here to City, turned them over, and they beat Spurs, and I just thought,
they had that week where they played Liverpool on Tuesday, Wednesday night. And
it was a big like 4-match run or something they had, didn't they?
They beat Liverpool down at their own place, and then they came here on the Saturday, and I was here, and they absolutely destroyed Manchester City 3-0.
They played well at Arsenal that day. They should have a last-minute goal, wasn't it?
They got somebody
sent off.
Simpson.
Danny Simpson got sent off, and they got the last second. They scored Arsenal, but no, it was an amazing story.
It was. Well, listen, we can't then not mention everybody else. So they were chasing. I mean, it was a disappointing season in the end for Spurs, Harry.
Well, they still finished, you know, got Champions League, finished third. They were disappointing from their point of view and their supporters' point of view, especially, was that they didn't finish above Arsenal. I mean, that was they want to finish above Arsenal. That is their killer. The Tottenham fans want to finish above Arsenal. And that last game of the season when they got beat 5-1 at Newcastle was the killer, you know, and Arsenal winning. So that was almost looks like a disappointing end of the season. It was a disappointing end, but overall the season was excellent for Tottenham.
I think probably the disappointing thing then for Spurs, Paul, would be the fact that at one point it was Arsenal or Leicester or Spurs or maybe United, and it kind of came down to Leicester, and Spurs were the only team that were going to catch them. That's why I'm maybe saying, that's why I think they'll be hugely deflated, out with the fact that they didn't finish above Arsenal.
It finished disappointing. You know, I think 2 weeks before the season ended, people were talking to them. They went to Stoke and beat Stoke 4-0 and absolutely destroyed them. And people were saying that they're going to catch Leicester, and then in the space of 2 weeks, they're finishing third. You know, but if you gave Tottenham Champions League at the start of the season,
Of course.
if you'd said,
But they went to Chelsea, Paul, as well, and they played well at Chelsea. Tottenham, they were two.
that rattled them, didn't it? I think.
And then second half, Chelsea made a change. Hazard came on, turned the game round, and end up 2 each. But no, I think Tottenham can take a lot of positives out of the season.
I thought they were fantastic last year.
5 players in the England squad, young players now in the England team. It's incredible.
Well, they're near neighbours in North London, Arsenal. Do we say it's a fantastically brilliant performance in the season again? They didn't win the league. Arsene Wenger got a lot of stick for that, but they still finished
second.
in the top 4, finished second.
Come second again. I mean, every year they're in.
But is that real success, Ari, for Arsenal Football Club?
Well, I mean, everybody then didn't have. The only team that was successful then were Leicester, you know, because everybody else was Man United, Man City. No one. I think finishing second again was. Arsenal had a lot of injuries as well last year. I think Arsenal will be bang there again next year, but he needs to bring a. He's made one signing, I think, but he needs. I think they need 2 or 3 signings, like everybody.
They need a centre forward that's going to guarantee them 20, 25 goals, like you used to do, big man, all the time.
Another centre. I need a centre half. But
there's a couple. I think there's a couple of positions. I think I agree. There's a couple of positions where Arsenal really need to think. Okay, well, it's not Arsenal. Arsene Wenger has to surely pinpoint, say we're weak there, we're weak there, we're weak there. We need to fill those positions.
But he knows that as well. You know, he's known that for a few years.
Been quite
but for some
stubborn,
reason,
though, is he not?
For some reason, they've not went out and spent the money that they've got on the top.
But I think when you look at all the top teams, they all need to improve. There's not one team you can look at now, is there? You know, Man United need some players if they're going to push on. Man City.
Let's go straight on to United then. New manager.
Yeah.
New direction. Tell me what's
a massive
signing. Where are they
signing.
weak then? Where were Man United weak last season? Because by the way, in all seriousness, Man United, as big as they are, didn't have a particularly good season. Terrible
season. It was a poor season.
Because they spent, I don't know, I'm going to say 180 million. I don't know the number, but it's big numbers, wasn't it?
I think they need to. Where do they need to improve? They need to improve, like
defensively.
All over, you know. I just think they're way short. They're relying on Rashford coming through next year again, like he did last year. He's had a great first season. The kid needs now. They're looking for him this year to be one of their main men. I mean, they're short everywhere, in my opinion.
They stumbled across Rashford as well.
Yeah,
exactly.
And I remember the midweek where he came on against was at FC Midtjylland in Europe because of the injury.
Is that how you pronounce it? Yeah.
Midtjylland.
All right, Midtjylland.
for us small people here to get it done. But I actually seen him play here in an under-21 game at the Etihad, and he looked bang average.
Did he?
And you would never have thought.
Yeah. No.
And then he got his chance by default, you would say, by injury, and he's went in. And to be fair to the kid,
the only thing I've got with it, I remember when Manchester United used to bring players through and they used to learn from the real pros that they had. I don't think they have that anymore, and I think they have stumbled over it. And they've always said to Rashford, go on then, because normally he would come on for 20 minutes in games, he wouldn't be starting games. No. And I think that's a big problem for Manchester United, is getting back what they used to have, what we expect them to have. And we don't want to dwell on them too much. There's a couple of other teams as well. Chelsea, boy, what a man this is they've got as manager now, Conte.
Yeah, but like all the time, I mean, he's done a fantastic job, you know, in Italy, and he's done a great job with the Italian team. They've been excellent in the Euros. So, yeah, a big signing for them. But, you know, Man United, they don't come any bigger, do they? No. Guardiola coming to Man City, Conte going to Chelsea, you know, Mourinho going to Man United. I mean, it's in Klopp. So it's incredible that they're all in this country now, managing all in the Premier League. It's going to make for an exciting Premier League. But at the end of the day, there can only be one winner. So, and they're all going to be expecting next year to win the league because they've all invested, big managers, big players.
I think that's
You'll bring a couple of Italians in, won't you, Chelsea?
I would think so.
Yeah.
I would think so. You know, if you watch that,
did you say talking about Bonucci?
Bonucci talking in, and you know it's the formation he's going to play as well. You know, wherever he's been as a manager, and especially with the Italians.
He's just going to play one at the back, just Bonucci on his own.
Yeah, Bonucci on his own and 10 goals. But you know, when you watch the Italian team that he's got now, they're so disciplined and organised, with and without the ball. And he's a bit of a character. You know, he's got a bit of a bit of enthusiasm in the touchline. You know, he's very animated as well. You know, so it's going to be great.
No, I like the it's exciting. The managers do look exciting next year. We've got all the top managers. Klopp, yeah.
Mr. Klopp at Liverpool.
Yeah. Again, I think they're going to have a very much.
Are they going to be under the most pressure?
No, I don't think they will.
Because of what you said, as in, you know, we'll get to City just in 2 seconds, but you know, with the Arsenal and the Spurs and United and Chelsea, etc., etc., etc.
But I think Liverpool sort of almost dropped out the top 4 now, haven't they? They've suddenly had, so I think if he can get back in the top 4 next year, it's going to be. But picking that top 4, the 4 Champions League spots, is very difficult because there are 6 or 7 teams next year, and 3 of them are going to be very disappointed with big managers, big budgets, and everything else that goes with it, and they're going to suddenly have disappointing seasons.
I think on Klopp, he's got a head start because he's been in there for 7 months as well.
Yeah.
You know, so he's been able to put a stamp, his philosophy
And
on
did
the
well
club as well.
incidentally.
Done really well. 2 finals, ended up getting 2. So I think, you know, obviously Guardiola, Conte, who we're all talking about, Mourinho, they've got to go in and start getting their philosophy right all the way throughout the club, whereas Klopp's got a head start by being in there already.
Well, let's finish on some of the top clubs then, because we are at the Etihad, and remember this is the Betsafe Premier League preview we're looking at. And remember, Betsafe is the official betting partner here at Manchester City. So we can finish on City in saying that they've got Guardiola coming in, who is, I suppose, touted as the #1 coach, having been incredible at Barcelona. He still did a fantastic job in Munich. By the guys that I know as well, having obviously played in Munich, that they love him in Munich. The fact that he didn't win the Champions League is really the only blot on the CV. And they hit the bar a couple of times, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, no, I think
But he's going to be sensational.
Oh,
here, isn't he?
fantastic signing for Man City to get him to come here now. It's going to be great for the club, great for the Premier League. He's a real personality, looks a great coach, got a lovely way with him with the players, it seems, you know, gets the best out of them. I'm excited to see what he does here.
Not many have a bad word about him, do they?
No, they don't. They don't. And, you know, personally for me, being in the area with Mourinho and Guardiola especially coming in,
Northwest is going to be incredible.
it's going to be phenomenal next year. And I think Guardiola is, everywhere he's been successful. And, you know, and people say, well, at Barca he already had the players. At Munich he already had top players. But you've still got to manage the top players. And you've still got to get success out of them. And I think he is the #1 coach in the world. And it's going to take this club onto a completely different level now.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Man City might be in an unbelievable position. Do you think he gives players a rollicking, like a real like you, or is he a different type of?
No, I don't think I don't think the days of the shouting and screaming are gone, Alan. I don't think you can do that anymore with players. You know, I think he'll go in and talk about he'll make his point in a firm way without players can't handle it anymore.
No,
if you go in front of the group and you start picking them out and shouting and having arguments with people, it doesn't work.
Certainly doesn't seem to be in his demeanour either, does it?
No, it doesn't.
He kind of keeps his counsel.
Yeah.
Kind of, I'll trim it, and I'm more almost methodical in the way he'll go about
Yeah,
things.
it does, and you can tell the way the teams work without the ball at Bayern and at Barcelona, that the players want to play for him. You know, that is evident when you watch them play, and that they buy into what, you know, I remember listening to Thierry Henry a few years ago, and he's speaking about when he went to Barcelona and how Guardiola managed him. Yeah. You know, and top players, if they buy into what the manager's doing, it's a massive recipe.
Yeah,
for success.
I mean, I spoke to Thierry Henry a couple of years ago when I was at Tottenham. We played Barcelona in a pre-season game at Wembley, and he said that if they get an injury, whoever comes into the team know exactly what their job is. They all play the same way: the first team, reserve team, under 21s. So if they get an injury, someone comes in, they know exactly what's expected in that system, and you know.
It should be some season, no question. But we should also mention, of course, that in the Northwest, Everton have a new manager in Ronald Koeman. So the whole thing is just bubbling under the surface just before we get to August the 13th, I think, is the kick-off of it. I've written down surprises of the season and disappointments of the season. Now, obviously, the surprise we've actually mentioned is Leicester City, I suppose. Was there any other surprises or mega disappointments within the Premier League last year?
Well, obviously, I mean,
apart from the top.
Well, I think at the bottom, Newcastle getting relegated. A club like Newcastle,
Incredible.
you know, 50 every week, 50-odd thousand people there, fanatics. You know, love their club, great club, big club. For them to go down, Aston Villa, where you played, like another big club.
Oh, incredible.
You know, 2 big clubs have dropped out of the Premier League, and it ain't going to be easy. Villa have got it all on to come back up again next year. I think Newcastle will be fine, but so you've lost two big clubs there. You know, Norwich came up and have gone straight back down. It's going to be difficult for them. And the teams that have come up next year is going to be. They've got it all on to stay in the league.
Just quickly, I'll mention because we should really mention West Ham as well because they're pretty dear to your heart. I mean, they had a pretty good season, didn't they?
Yeah, very good. Yeah, Slaven's done a good job. Slaven's come in, done a good job there. But they bought well. People like Payet was a great signing for them. And yeah, they've got a good squad, and I think that the new move to the new stadium, you know, the Olympic Stadium, 60,000. They've sold 60,000 or 52,000 season tickets,
really?
and I think they've got a waiting list for another 15 or 20,000. It's incredible. So that's taken them onto another level. Yeah. They're now one of the big clubs up there with the Tottenhams and Arsenals in Chelsea in London. So yeah, great move for West Ham.
I think because of what Leicester done, it's taken away a little bit from the season West Ham had last year.
Yeah.
Because any other year they would say fantastic, and Southampton.
Any disappointments for you within the season? I mean, it's the obvious disappointments of the 3 teams that go down.
Yeah, I think away from that, for me, it was Everton.
Better or
Everton with the players that they've got.
Had a poor season, yeah.
You know, they've signed a lot of players, invested a lot of money into the team as well. You know, and for them to finish in the bottom half of the table shouldn't really happen with the players.
Bournemouth had a great season, Alan, staying in the Premier League. You know,
absolutely fantastic.
Club like Bournemouth, 11,000 people. That's all. The stadium only holds 11,000. For them to stay in the Premier League and do it comfortably.
About Leicester before with players in the Championship 2 years ago. Bournemouth. I mean, I was managing against Eddie Howe in League One. Yeah. With 7 or 8 of the players. You know,
that's right.
Richie, Charlie Daniels, Elphick.
Same players, yeah.
They were the same players in League One, and now they're competing and doing
didn't
unbelievably
look
well
out
in the
of place.
Premier League.
I saw an awful lot of games there last year, and they were fantastic.
Probably 7 or 8 players that played in League One 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
You mentioned, though, we only briefly mentioned Everton, and it's not because we'll get back to them in our Betsafe preview, I'm sure, throughout the season. But John Stones, he stays or he goes, centre half at Everton.
I think he'll probably stay. I think that with Koeman coming in, I think at the end of the season he lost his way a little bit. I think he's a great prospect, but he lost his way, and I think he's now got a manager coming who played the same position as he played and was one of the world's great players. You know, so I think he should stay and maybe have a year or so and learn. You know, see what information he can learn, get from Koeman. Hopefully, he can improve his game. And when the time's right, I'm sure he will move on.
He's a future England centre half, isn't he?
Yeah, I do. I think he's a fantastic
Does he go
player.
or does he stay? Does someone take the punt and say, we'll take him for 50 million? I don't know, I'm just using a number.
I think there'll be 2 or 3 clubs that would take him. You know, and it all depends whether the new owners that have went in there are going to.
It's just whether the kid feels, you know, and he maybe another year he wouldn't do me any harm, you know.
Well, I
think Harry's bang on there. He needs to play.
He needs to play
and learn the game.
It's no good, you know, coming to a club and not playing. You know, he's got to play.
He needs work defensively. On the ball, he's fantastic. Well, know that.
Yeah.
You know, but.
Well, the relegation teams, we've mentioned them, Villa, Norwich and Newcastle. I think this may be best price on Betsafe, incidentally. Newcastle, 45 to come back up. We having that?
Yeah.
Odds on, maybe not surprising, is it?
No, I'd bet them to win the league. I think next year.
Well, there'll be a bigger price for that. That's
I mean, to win the league, of course, that's only promotion.
Villa 11-4, by the way. Norwich.
No, they can have Villa 11. I wouldn't be betting Villa.
Think there'll be many things.
But I'll be betting Newcastle not only at 4-5 for promotion, but I would bet them to win the league. I think them and Derby are the 2 teams for me next year.
And we'll need to mention obviously promoted teams: Burnley, Hull, and Middlesbrough. Yeah, Burnley 45 to go. This is prices for relegation next year, obviously being in the Premiership. Burnley 45 to go down. Hull 23 to 20, as are Middlesbrough.
Depends who they bring in, Alan. Now it depends how they invest. You know, if they don't bring players in, I can't see them surviving. No. Burnley with their team they've got at the moment, I wouldn't see them surviving. Hull City, unless Brucey brings some players in, they're another team that.
Burnley have done it before, of course, Harry.
Yeah.
You know, they've been there before. I know they were relegated eventually, but
I think it's a different league altogether now than it was the last time that they stayed up. You know, the quality. We were talking about the top 4. It's a top 6 or 7 there. Then
Yeah.
you've still got your West Hams or Evertons who are going to invest, which is going to make it so difficult for them now.
There's 14, 15 teams there you could look at who you know are not going to go down next year. So suddenly you've got that little mini league, and unfortunately with them 3 teams, they're going to be in it. I think Watford will be banging trouble next year. I think for me, they're a team that I would look at. If I'm betting on relegation, I would stick Watford bang in the picture.
You know, we're all talking about what players are they going to bring in, but there's only so many players that they can.
Yeah, there's only so that are actually available.
Yeah. Well, we've watched the Euros, haven't we? And we've seen, you know, there's been a shortage of outstanding players. No one's jumped out of you this tournament and you've gone, my God, you know, Man City have got to get him, Man United have got to get him, Chelsea have got to get him. The Italians have obviously got some good players, but you know, there's not that many players that are available.
Every major tournament.
Bayern Munich are not don't need to sell players, so you're not going to get them into the German teams.
You mentioned relegation. We've got Burnley 45, Borough and Hull 23-20, Watford 19-10, so just short of 2s. West Brom the same, Bournemouth 3-1, tough for them. Swansea 4s, Sunderland 72, Stoke 91. Of course, you get those prices on Betsafe. Any of them take your fancy, wee man?
No, I think we're talking about last season and who done well. Big Sam in at Sunderland and done a fantastic job.
Listen, he's the best. I'm telling you now, he's the best firefighter on the planet.
Unbelievable.
I mean, do you know? Would you think that, Harry?
Yeah,
I
done
mean, really
fantastic. Yeah.
Because Sunderland were history. I thought they were going. But I think people talk about Big Sam, about the style he plays. That's rubbish, to be honest, because he's not picking it enough to keep the team he's got and say, okay, I'll make them better because the last manager didn't. He actually brings in players that's going to make them stronger.
Oh yeah, he went out and bought some players
and
in.
He did that again.
And he also had Defoe. Yeah. You know, he had a goal scorer. When you haven't got a goal scorer, you're struggling.
I mean, what, they get 16 goals in a team that should have and nearly get relegated, which is fantastic.
But a couple of here, because we're at Manchester City, Guardiola, Premier League and FA Cup 15-2, Champions League and FA Cup, but even just for Premier League and Champions League 14-1. Imagine, do you think he'll win the Champions League here? He'll be close, won't he?
Again, depends how they recruit and who he brings into the club. They need, like everybody.
Well, they brought in Nolito from Celta Vigo.
Yeah.
Which is pretty good goal scorer.
I mean, we're talking they're talking this morning. I see Luis Suarez. I mean, now if you're going to bring a player in, he can make a difference. He can change the team. He could take whoever he goes to, suddenly becomes possible champions for sure. He's that good.
Well, for City next season, for me, it's imperative that they keep Aguero fit and Silva fit. Yeah. There was very few times last year that they had Joe Hart, Company, Silva and Aguero all on the pitch at the same time, and you've got De Bruyne as well.
But your problem is, Paul, you know, keeping Company fit is not easy,
no,
is
it's
it?
not.
You know, he's a great player, I love him, but unfortunately for him at the moment, every time he just can't, so with his body he's picking up, and even with the best medical people in the world that Man City have, I'm sure, you know, at their disposal, they can't sort the problem out.
They're just hoping here that Vincent, because he's had this amount of time, I mean, it was a Champions League semi-final against Madrid, and it's the first time he's had probably 4.5 to 5 months to get himself properly fit. Yeah. He's not needed to push himself to get back, you know, and I know they're pinning a lot of hopes on that here.
I mean, he started very young. You know, I first saw him play. I went and I watched him play. I think he was in, where was it, Anderlecht or somewhere playing.
He was playing in the Champions League.
16. He was like he broke into the team when he was sort of 16.
He went to Hamburg, didn't he, at a young age for a lot of money.
Listen, it's going to be an unbelievable season next season. Just quickly, before we finish this Premier League preview on Betsafe, City 2-1 to win, United 4s, Arsenal 6s, Chelsea 30-2, Tottenham 15-2, Liverpool 9s, Leicester from 3,000 to 1 to 29 to 1.
No, they could be 3,000 to 1 with me. In fact, even 3,000 to 1, I wouldn't take it.
99 to 1 on
Yeah,
Betsafe.
no, they can't win the league.
No. Well, listen then. In that case,
Man City.
Set your favourites, and probably quite rightly so. To be honest, I don't even know about United at 4s. That's not a bad price on Betsafe, but
not for me.
Just before we finish this up, then, I want a top 4. I know this is probably the hardest. I don't know what price you're going to. We'll probably try and put a group bet on for top 4 on Betsafe.
Very hard this year.
Go on then, top 4.
Well, I fancy I'd be with Man City to win it.
Second,
I'm going to go with Arsenal.
Third,
I'm going to go with Chelsea.
4th.
Tottenham.
City. Arsenal.
You're going to keep this, aren't you?
Chelsea. Spurs. I'm just reminding what not to bet.
Yeah.
Go on.
Top 4.
I think City will win it all day long.
2-1 on Betsafe City.
Yeah, all day long. I think Spurs.
Ooh, another good season by them.
Yeah, I think Chelsea.
Chelsea.
And I think Manchester United. I can't see Arsenal getting in the top 4.
United.
And not been out of the top
I
4
know.
for 20 years.
I know.
That's a bold shout.
Big by the
That would be the end of Arsenal if he doesn't make the top 4.
I can
for
honestly
sure.
see it happening, unless they, going back over old ground, unless they strengthen properly. I can't see them getting in. I think Spurs will be, they'll kick on from last year. I think they're fantastic. And City, United, and Conte with the new managers coming in, I think that will have a massive impact on it.
This is a good one for Harry then. If Paul's right and Arsenal don't make the top 4, is that the last season that
Oh,
Arsene Wenger's the manager at
absolutely,
Arsenal?
absolutely,
It's
certainty.
got to be it, isn't it?
That would be the end for if they don't make top 4.
Absolutely.
He's got to make the top 4.
Okay, well listen, that was the Premier League preview on Betsafe. Thanks to Harry and Paul. Betsafe, the official betting partner of Manchester City. That's where we are at the moment in time in the Etihad. Thanks to them for letting us use the 11s club here in Manchester. Remember, keep it with Betsafe for the best tips, the best offers, and the best pundits. See you next time.